When the Paradox Life by You team released their traits video last week, there was yet another flurry of excitement for Life by You to release in March 2024. In the video, we had Rocio showing all of what is possible in Life by You when it comes to assigning traits. But one thing that I think that people are forgetting to take into account is that the Life by You team released a blog, and I have to tell you, the blog is mind-blowing. For those that are new to my channel, my name is Michael, and I want to welcome you to Sovereign Gaming in Life Sims, the YouTube channel where I build worlds, lots, and share my thoughts on video games that I enjoy in the life simulation gaming space. In my last analysis video, I covered the video portion of the traits content released by Life by You, and like I mentioned in my previous analysis, there is so much more to cover and discuss from the blog. Today I am talking nothing but the blog. And I'm not going to read the whole blog for you guys, since you can do that on your own time, but I will read some excerpts and reflect on the concepts as we go through the blog. Now, I mentioned this in the last video, but because it is such an elementary concept to understand for the rest of the blog, I'm going to repeat what the blog says that traits are within the Life by You context. So when the Life by You refers to traits, the word traits actually refers to personality, conditions, emotions, need states, relationship, object states, and timers. In the blog, all of those are types of traits, and they make it clear in the blog as well. But again, because it's such an important concept, I just want to repeat it here for us as we go through. The next concept that is explained is how personality traits are classified. And before I discuss this, I do want to read the passage directly from the Life by You blog. For personality traits, the concept of personality is so broad, we've subdivided it into further categories where each category focuses on a specific type of effect. So lifestyles. These determine what actions the character's AI is likely to perform. They use the trait appeal settings in an interaction's properties so that you can set how likely a certain interaction is for that lifestyle. For example, exercise interactions have high trait appeal for the active trait, meaning they're prioritized over non-exercise interactions when an active character's AI chooses its next action. Technically, any trait can be referenced in trait appeal. We simply chose to focus lifestyle traits in that area. Talents. So these determine what skills the character is good at, which we wanted to separate out from the likelihood of doing that same activity. This is how we allow for things like lazy athletes, mediocre mischief makers, and business gurus who are bad for money. Each skill has a corresponding talent trait, which grants bonus XP and increases in success rates for that skill. Attitudes. So these determine how the character responds to emotional changes. For example, cheerful boosts increases to happiness, hot-headed boosts increases to angry, and dramatic boosts increases to everything. Quirks. So these unlock unique interactions. So they make slight changes to behavior and or modify conditional checks. For example, a messy character will ignore reaction triggers to messes that they encounter. Likes and dislikes. So these determine what the character enjoys doing. Interactions tagged with their likes result in an increase to happiness, whereas disliked interactions will make them sad or very sad. Backgrounds. So these are currently a work in progress. Originally, these were planned as narrative flavor text. We are currently exploring possibilities around adding gameplay effects. Stay tuned for more. I feel like this is the kind of gameplay that will make Life by You the next generation life simulation game to dominate the life simulation gaming space. Now, I can't speak on The Sims 4, but when I played The Sims 3 and used its personality trait system, I felt like I could create very specific individuals on that system alone. Or maybe I'm just not that creative. Anyway, what's being described here in this blog is that Life by You is taking a personality trait system for their characters and pretty much putting it on crack in terms of the level of customization that players will be able to achieve if they so choose to. Instead of just assigning your Life by You human characters a set of traits from a pool of traits, Life by You has taken it to the next level by categorizing personalities even further into lifestyles, talents, attitudes, quirks, likes and dislikes, and backgrounds. You're not just designing a blank slate. You, as the player, are really being challenged to set up a human character with a full story and a fully fleshed out personality there. The only mystery that I'm really seeing here is what these background traits are. However, they're saying it straight from the horse's mouth in this case in the blog, and I understand that background traits are just still being worked on, and I want to give it some time and space to evolve before commenting on it, since I feel like my feedback just needs to wait. I just need to wait on my feedback to learn a little more before leaving any kind of comments on what I think background traits are. And I also don't really have any ideas either, so there's that too. However, I want to know, what do you think about background traits, and how do you think they should function in the early access release? I also wanted to read the next passage as well. We haven't self-imposed limits on what all trait types can affect, but in general you can expect the following. Emotions changes the character's portrait expression and idle animation. Need states changes the character's portrait expression, idle animation, and determines whether the character passes out or not. Relationship used primarily for conditional checks for conversations and human-to-human interactions. Object states visual changes to the object. Timers. These don't directly impact gameplay, but are used to trigger scripts that will. We gotta remember, traits can affect these different gameplay mechanics. However, traits refers to more than just personality traits. They refer to conditions, emotions, need states, relationships, object states, and timers, just as Lauren mentions here. If I sound repetitive, it is on purpose, since I feel like as a community, we really need to get it into our heads that traits refers to more than just the personality qualities of the Life by You human characters. Or maybe I'm just repeating it for myself. Either way, I'm hoping to wrap my head around it. Anyways, I feel like another important part of the message is that Lauren describes that there aren't any self-imposed limits yet. Applying how I understand this concept, theoretically I could create a custom trait, attach it to an object, and have it change a Life by You human character's emotion, needs, relationship, change how the object looks, and a timer all in one trait if I so choose. So this level of customization really in any genre of games is unheard of. It's like we're becoming developers of our own Life by You games, and that's crazy. Yeah, it's a very crazy concept and something that I think is unexpected and also very intriguing. I'm so excited to just learn more about the Life by You game, and we have been learning all this time, but you know, with this last blog, it has really driven home that this game is much greater than the sum of its parts. Let's continue reading a little more because Lauren does talk about more technical aspects of traits. I'm going to read some more excerpts from the blog again, and again, you can read the full blog yourself. I'll just leave the link in the description box for you if you'd like to read it on your own. So let's read some excerpts. Suppress traits. So this one's really easy to get mixed up, so I recommend having these rules on a sticky note somewhere for easy reference if you're doing a lot with trait suppression. Let's say you've got trait A that suppresses trait B. So trait B cannot be assigned to a character with trait A. Trait A can be assigned to a character that already has trait B. If a character has both trait A and trait B, trait A will prevent any effects by trait B. Trait B's on remove script will still activate if removed while trait A is active. Suppression is helpful for managing potential conflicts between traits. For example, if you decide that a character shouldn't gain the happy emotion while the miserable emotion is active, then simply set miserable to suppress happy. Supporting and opposing traits. So the primary purpose of these is to prevent or allow certain trait combinations during character creation, especially in regards to relationship traits. For example, we use opposing traits to prevent your character's sister from also being their grandmother, or your lazy character from also being active. I'm not gonna lie, I had to reread this one a few times to really understand it, especially when it comes to trait suppression. And remember, when they use the word trait, it refers to more than just the personality traits that we are so familiar with as a community. So that whole trait thing with the example that Lauren shares could also be applied to just like an emotional state as well, because that is also technically considered a trait according to Life by You and according to the blog here. So again, I just wanted to reiterate that because again, it's a term that I think could be misunderstood by people, especially me. So that's why I am kind of repeating it for myself and just trying to use an example just to check and see if I am correct in my understanding. Of course, if you don't feel like I am correct in this understanding of it, then feel free to drop a comment below. I'm not too sensitive about this kind of thing, as I kind of view these learnings as a journey. So don't worry there. Anyways, yeah, I had to reread this one a few times to really understand it, like especially when it came to trait suppression. Now, that's not a criticism on the writing or the message, that's more of a criticism on the reader, in this case myself. I also had to tell myself that the on-remove script is kind of like a trait's exit script. Like that helped me to understand it a little bit better. Like it's a program event that happens when a trait finishes, so to speak. Hopefully I'm not confusing anyone, but I thought that I would share that in case the on-remove script terminology wasn't resonating completely with some of you guys. So again, this is not a criticism on the term that was used, rather I just needed to dumb it down for myself, and I figured that if I had to dumb it down for myself, then maybe somebody else would find it handy as well if they just needed to think about it from a different angle. Okay, maybe I shouldn't have said dumb it down for myself. Maybe I should have just been nicer and said look at it from a different angle. Anyways, I am getting ahead of myself, but I'm curious. Question for you guys. Are there any video games out there on the market that allows you to create a trait or a tag that the game can read that also allows you to suppress, support, or oppose other traits or tags without having to pull up a Word doc to dive into the back-end coding? Is there a game that can do that? Because, yeah, I'm really not sure, and I would love to look into other games that do that as well, just so that I would have a point of comparison for when Life by You does release. So if you know of any games, then feel free to, again, just drop a comment below and let me know, and I'll take a look at it as well. But there are many things that get me excited for Life by You. I mean, you guys can tell with all the videos that I've released, but one of the key gameplay features that I feel sets it apart from the rest is Life by You's ability to put endless customization options at the fingertips of their players. And I'm talking customization tools that truly make anything seem possible. Like, I can see the workshop flooding with trait downloads of all kinds, and that's something to revere because The Sims, across all of its franchises, has some of the most active modders and custom content creators out there, and I would even argue that The Sims, in all of its franchises and iterations, really pioneered the idea of modding your game and adding custom content to your game, and it really pioneered a lot of influencers within that gaming space as well. And that's something that really just kind of goes understated in my opinion, and it's an incredibly large community and an incredibly active community as well. So you really kind of hit both of the jewels that any company would dream of having, which is to create a product for a community that really rallies behind it. And now with Life by You, it really seems like there's a whole new set of categories of custom content that will be opened up for players to add into their games, whether they design it themselves or download it. Again, traits is a huge one, and like I keep saying, traits refers to lots of things. It's not just personality traits. It could also be emotional traits or certain object traits. So yeah, there's a lot of possibilities there, and I think that with these tools at our fingertips, it really just it really opens up a can of worms that a really good can of worms, and I think that we'll really see some phenomenal things on the workshop, if I'm going to be completely honest with you guys, and I'm excited to see how it comes about this coming March. Again, it is gameplay like this that will establish Life by You as a true next-gen life simulation game. let's carry on reading some parts of the blog for a bit. As the resident harbinger of chaos, quirks are my favorite since they're often the product of my wouldn't it be fun / dumb if moments. For example, the shameless trait ignores the rules of public decency. To you, all plants are toilets, without ever becoming embarrassed. The eccentric trait lets you talk to certain inanimate objects. However, my favorite is currently the fickle trait, which introduces a random chance of waking up the next morning with different likes and dislikes. How does tagging work in creating traits? Well, tags are assigned in the organization tab of the traits editor and determine what the trait can be assigned to or whether it is visible in the UI. Here are some of our commonly used tags. The avatar creation tag, so this allows the trait to be viewed and selected in the character creator. Life stage tags, for example, adult, elder, etc., determines which life stage a character must be in order to be assigned that trait. The human trait, so this allows the trait to appear as an option when assigning traits to a human. Hidden, which hides the trait in the UI. You can also create your own tags to use however you wish. How you build out a script for a trait, and what kind of scripts can you give traits. Well, each trait comes with a set of built-in scripts located in the function tab of the traits editor. OnAdd runs immediately after the trait is assigned. OnRenew runs when a timed trait is assigned to a character that already has that trait active. This also resets the trait's timer. And OnRemove, which runs immediately after the trait is removed. Maybe I'm just pointing this out to myself to make sure that I understand this concept correctly, but I'll share it with you guys just in case it helps someone. Okay, the way that I understand it. When it comes to tagging when designing traits, it is only assigned in the organization tab of the traits editor, and that tagging determines what the trait can be assigned to and whether it is visible in the UI. Okay, I'm kind of reading it word for word there, but I want to make sure that we all understand what Lauren means by tagging for those of us who aren't exposed to those kinds of terms. Again, Lauren explains everything simply. It's just that I like to reread and repeat new concepts before claiming that I have an understanding of it because, yeah, sometimes I misread things and don't understand things. So I like to simplify things and repeat them for myself anyways. So yeah, that was something that I just kind of wanted to share with you guys, see if that new perspective helps anybody else or that new angle of understanding helps anybody else. But I also wanted to share an observation with you guys. And the first observation that I wanted to share, and I shared it in my last video, is that I like how there is a specific category for human traits. Like I mentioned before, to me this suggests a level of back-end organization that will be easy to expand and grow as the franchise grows as well. I love it when video games set themselves up for long-term success because it usually indicates that players will get a very high-quality game even if it's something that's delivered over time. For example, No Man's Sky and City Skylines 1 are both games that set themselves up for very long shelf lives by establishing game mechanics that are built to last long and to change. The next observation that I wanted to share was the hidden traits feature. Now, I'm sure that you guys have all seen videos on The Sims exposing hidden traits used by firefighters, police officers, and the like. To me, this is kind of like a back-end look at what we could do with traits hidden by the UI. For example, if we wanted to make a fireproof trait hidden for an object, it seems like we can do that. I'm sure that there are tons of more uses out there for hidden traits, so feel free to share some of your ideas in a comment below. And considering like how innovative this kind of gameplay is, I would have never expected hidden traits of all things to make the cut. And yet here we are, getting hidden traits right out the gate. The best part about all of this is that the trait editor tool seems like it will be very easy to use and understand, allowing any kind of player to make a custom trait should they so choose to do so. And again, I've mentioned this before, but they do have a video on the trait editor. It was released back in July, if I remember correctly there. Anyways, let's get back to reading another excerpt from the blog. What is an interaction script wrapper? Wrappers are like a burger bun around an interaction meat patty, allowing you to run additional commands before and after the interaction. They live under the Function tab in the Traits editor, where you can define any number of wrapper scripts to trigger off interaction tags. For example, the Likes Exercise trait has a wrapper that activates whenever the character performs an interaction tagged as exercise. What this means is that if you have a trait that applies the same effect to a large set of interactions, instead of copying and pasting the same handful of commands into all of those scripts, you simply need to throw a tag on those interactions and the wrapper handles everything automatically. It also removes the need for chained conditionals if multiple traits could affect the interaction. Here are 2 final notes about wrappers to keep in mind while scripting. Only one wrapper can be applied to an interaction at a time. If the character has multiple traits with wrappers that trigger off the same interaction tag, the system will choose one at random. And interactions can access variables declared in a wrapper before the run embedded interaction command, but wrappers can't access variables declared in interactions. Again, I can really see modders going nuts with this feature being so easily accessible as a tool. I can also see a lot of influencers starting their public careers with doing tutorials based on the customization tools alone. I'm choosing not to repeat what script wrappers are, since I feel like Lauren describes it in the blog very concisely here, and in the blog she shared some examples that I decided not to include since I don't want this video to be too long for you guys. Now, I did want to say what I did want to say about the script wrappers, is that the Life by You team really thought ahead when it came to how players are going to want to customize their games, and that they don't want to be forced to add a script for every possible interaction out there. Rather, instead, with script wrappers, they just add a tag that triggers the behaviors. This was ingenious to address a problem before it occurred, because this will save players a ton of time, and it also makes the feature appealing as well for anyone to just kind of get into it. Now, the rest of the blog ends off with a few more questions from users, including some viewers on this channel. So I just want to give a quick shout out to Kate Fosk 8906 and Julia Elbert 1349. I know I've interacted with you guys before, and I feel like you guys watch my videos, but you guys ask some great questions, and I'm so glad that Paradox took the time to answer you guys. Anyways, at the end of the blog, we actually ended up learning some of the following, just to quickly sum up the ending of it. So, buildings and lots won't have traits, but they seem open to it. The color coding of the trait seen in the character creator corresponds with the subcategory of personality traits. And conditional emotions are possible, such as Hanover, making the human characters increase or decrease a certain emotion stats based on the personality traits that they have. That's gonna end it for the traits analysis for both the video and the blog released last week. My response and reaction to this set of content pieces is actually extremely positive. Both the video and the blog really show Life by You shining as the next proper iteration of life simulation games. Just based on these 2 pieces of content alone, I feel like Life by You is truly disrupting the life simulation gaming space and setting new gameplay standards and expectations that may be heralded as groundbreaking not only in the life simulation gaming space, but in the video game industry in general. We've seen it done with The Sims in the past, and this looks truly exciting. I am someone that welcomes innovation and taking risks to try new things, and I see it here 10 times over. Now, only time will tell when it comes to how this will get executed come March 2024, and I'm excited to see what else we'll learn up until that time. Now, I think what made this set of content pieces from Paradox much more impactful, for me at least, is that the Paradox Life by You team answered a lot of questions and added a lot of context when it came to understanding the basics for the customization tools. Or at least for me it did, because I am not a modder by any means, nor am I well versed in programming or even writing codes. And my biggest example of this is the explanation of what traits actually are. In previous videos, I have outright asked this question because I understood traits differently based on a different context, and I needed to understand what the Life by You context is. This brings me, I also, before I move on to my next point, Life by You did actually explain this in their video in July as well when it came to the trait editor. And so yeah, they've explained what traits are before, and I'm really glad that they're doing it again for that repetition, because I think that people are also confused about the context of traits as well, and how they actually refer to many things as opposed to just personality traits. And so this brings me on to my next point on feedback that I have given in the past, and that is the storytelling and communication of Life by You's features. When I mentioned that I would like to see improvements on the storytelling publications of Life by You, perhaps I'm misspeaking and should say that I am actually looking for an improved chronological publishing order. Having a long memory has served me very well, and I have to say, if we look back to July, Rocio walks us through a video on how to edit traits and skills, actually addressing a lot of the points here that I was really glad to see addressed again. So at its core, the video walks us through the back end of what is described in the blog. This was the one back in July. And the feedback that I am giving is that it would have made more sense to release the traits deep dive blog back in July and then follow up with the last traits video also in July. And then that way players can watch the traits editor in action, read about it in detail from Lauren, and then see it put into action in the game in the latest video that was released last Friday. This would make more sense chronologically from a content production perspective, since players would be able to grasp the trait editing concepts within a certain time period, and we can just kind of move on and keep the conversation going there. What we got was the first video being released in July, followed up by a blog and a video released in September, with a bunch of other videos in between covering all kinds of gameplay content within Life by You. This is a case where I think that it's not the content itself that makes the communication feel chaotic, rather it was the order that the content was released in. To me, it feels like the explanations of concepts don't get completed, if that makes any sense. I've also grown to be completely unbothered by the candid style that was taken for these videos. I'm more so providing feedback on the chronological order for content releases and how the content relates to each other when stepping back and taking a 360-degree view of what we are learning as future players. On the flip side, and playing devil's advocate, it can actually be a realistic and legitimate content strategy to drip out certain gameplay concepts and then revisit them in the future to do an in-depth explanation, depending on how the community reacts to them. And I actually do suspect that this is the case, since we really haven't heard much about the conversation system for a while, except for when it was briefly mentioned in the latest blog. Players, and myself included, were just not that excited or invested in the conversation system when it was first just kind of dripping out in the beginning here, and I suspect that the Life by You team recognizes this. That's enough out of me though. At this time, I want to hear what you have to think about the latest Life by You blog. Has the blog helped to answer more questions from yourself? Do you feel adequately educated on how to use the trait editor? Or do you think that Life by You is starting to target modders specifically? Do you have a trait in mind that you would like to see added in? And if so, do you think that you yourself would be able to add it into your own game? Comment below with your thoughts. I'm curious to hear what you have to say about this, and I'm also curious to see what kind of ideas that you have when it comes to adding in new traits. And until next time, I just want to thank you for watching, and if you'd like to see more videos like this one, then feel free to like this video, and please consider subscribing to the Sovereign Gaming and Life Sims YouTube channel. Thank you again for watching, and I hope you have yourself a wonderful day.